I've been getting a lot of requests from people out there saying they miss the old LFA, when I used to just sit out here and shoot the shit with you. Yeah, so fuck it, let's do it.
What's up, brother?
So the gas stations in Tulsa, Oklahoma only seem to hire extremely good-looking people. That's besides the point, but I'm just trying to illustrate this story for you. So I walked into the same gas station I always walk into, and saw the same clerks that I always see in there. And they were acting a little bit different towards me this time. They were giggly and smiling. And one of them said, "So LFA, what's the red pill?" Which was odd because I've never talked about my YouTube channel with them. So I guess they stumbled across my channel. But I was a little bit stifled at first because I'd never been asked the question, what is the red pill? So I was trying to come up with a legitimate answer. And so I said it's the psychology of your sexuality. And as I left, I got to thinking, because I've never even used the term psychology of sexuality. And I got to thinking about psychology. You know, and that's what game is, right? It's the psychology of mind games, right? To talking to women. So it really got me thinking, you know. I did a little bit of research and I saw that roughly 19% of Americans over the age of 18 have an anxiety disorder. And that doesn't include those who fail to acknowledge their anxiety disorders. So I would assume it's probably closer to 30 to 40 to 50% of Americans that have anxiety disorders. And with all of the endocrine disruptors in our foods, and I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories here, but let's face it, we eat a lot of crap foods, a lot of canned foods, processed foods, you know, foods with preservatives that disrupt our endocrine system. So we can only assume that anxiety disorders are going to continue to get worse and worse. So I started thinking about my audience, and you know, the audience of the entire Manosphere. You know, the guys that watch dating coaches, life coaches, red pill content creators. You know, what percentage of these guys fit into the anxious category, the anxiety disorder category? You know, if you're constantly online researching how to be successful with women, I'd be willing to bet you have problems with women. And I would also be willing to bet that the leading cause to problems with women is social anxiety. Either you're scared to approach them, you're nervous and unable to hold conversations with them, you have a anxious feeling that you're just not good enough, and you know, constantly have this cloud over you because the suicide rates are getting extremely high. You know, men are just doing crazy things, and the mental health of young males is not in a good place right now, and it seems to be continuously getting worse. And then I think about the content creators, you know, the dating coaches, the life coaches, the red-pilled content creators. And I'm not calling out any names, guys. I have nobody in mind right now. I'm not thinking of any specific dating coaches or content creators. Like, I'm not even trying to go that route. I'm just trying to make my own content and stay out of beef. I don't want any of that right now. It blows me off my track, and I don't want to do that anymore. But I do have to point out that the opposite end of the anxiety spectrum is the psychopathic spectrum, right? The anxiety people overthink things. You know, they have this feeling of that they're constantly worried that they're going to screw up, you know, that they're not living up to expectations. The opposite end of that, you know, you teeter on the other end of the chemical imbalance in the brain, and you have the psychopaths. Now, fortunately, only about 4% of Americans are diagnosed as psychopaths. But there's probably a higher percentage. There's some that don't know they're psychopaths, or they're unwilling to admit it, or they're unwilling to go and get a mental checkup. So, anyways, moving forward. The traits of a psychopath are, lacking empathy, lacking sympathy, extreme pleasure in getting what you want by any means necessary, not considering the feelings of others, sociopathic behavior, narcissistic behavior, a willingness to lie, cheat, steal, manipulate, various things like that in order to get what you want. And as I watch a lot of red-pilled content, a lot of dating coaches, a lot of confidence hustlers, a lot of life coaches, a lot of them try to teach you game, And a lot of game is manipulating women. And a lot of dating coaches tell you to lie to women. They tell you to cheat on women in order to keep your options open, right? You got to have a lot of plates around. You got to have a lot of women. The problem with this, and there's nothing wrong with having a lot of women. There's some polygamous men out there that have like 3 wives. If you believe in that, hey, go for it. As long as you're not lying to the women. You shouldn't have a reason to lie to them, because, one of the key signs of a psychopath is willingness to lie to get what they want. Willing to cheat to get what they want. Willing to manipulate to get what they want. And a lot of dating coaches will tell you to lie to get sex from women. They'll tell you to manipulate women, get in their heads, play with their heads and their emotions in order to sleep with women. And if they're willing to do that, they're literally telling you their sociopathic and psychopathic behaviors. They're literally opening up to you about these behaviors that they have. They're admitting their psychopathic behaviors. What makes you think that they wouldn't lie to you just to take your money? And the harsh reality is that if you're in the anxious category, you probably often have a feeling of not measuring up, not being good enough. You sense the burden that men face to provide and be successful, and you feel like you're not measuring up. And then poof, a dating coach comes in and claims that he can save your situation. You're completely unknowing of the fact that you actually have anxiety. You have a mental issue. And a dating coach is going to try to convince you that he can make you have the same results he's having. You can just learn game, learn to manipulate, learn to lie, learn to cheat, learn to get what you want. That's alpha characteristics. But you're never going to become that. If you're not a psychopath, you're never going to have the ability to lie, cheat, steal, and manipulate and feel no remorse for your actions. You can't do that. You're a normal person with a healthy chance to have a healthy life. 50% of marriages do last. Okay, 50% end in divorce. Yeah, that's true. But the other 50 actually work out. You probably have a chance to be in that other 50. It just depends on what route you want to take. So that's something to take into consideration if you're one of those guys taking advice from a dating coach. And that's all I have for tonight, guys. LFA signing out. You really stuck around all the way until the fucking end. You big brain motherfucker.